Alrighty, everyone, welcome back to another live stream here on the channel. Hopefully everyone has had a great weekend so far, had a great Sunday so far. Doing an early stream, 1 o'clock here in the afternoon, typically about 6, 7 o'clock when we do our briefings, but making it early today because I have some stuff planned later on. As people who know me personally obviously know, I watch races, so there's a lot of racing going on today, so I want to get this briefing out there. That way people know the latest information. And let's see who we have in the chat so far. We have Pez, we have Bond, we have Indiana, Caden, Anna, Mo, Randall, Nathan, and Weather Demon, as well as everyone else who is in the chat who may not be chatting, or if you're just watching and not chatting, glad to have you in here today. So let's go right ahead and switch on over to the main scene. I'll just double check a few things. We should be good to go. And we got a lot to talk about, specifically with Invest 97L. That's going to be the main thing we talk about in this live stream, talking about when it's going to turn, if it's going to turn, at least what information we have on that. Why is that so sharp? I was just looking at that big time cutoff right there between the rain and Southeast NC. Big cutoff there, but anyways, yeah, and also talking about its intensity, likely going to become a hurricane, maybe even making a run at a major hurricane out in the middle of the Atlantic. And recent guidance, we just got even more guidance in over the last 30 minutes to an hour or so, and it actually continues to trend it further from the US. So hopefully we continue to see that trend over the next couple days. Obviously this thing is still way out here in the eastern main development region, so plenty of stuff can easily change, but it is a pretty well organized tropical wave coming off of Africa. Quite quickly got its act together, and you can see it does look like a very much tropical wave here, just to barely off to the east of Cape Verde, and it will likely become a tropical storm here over about the next 3 days or so. I'm thinking probably Tuesday, Wednesday, it's likely going to become a tropical storm somewhere in the middle of this AOI, and then I think it will maintain tropical storm intensity probably all the way up until northeast of the Lesser Antilles, and that's where it's probably going to have its best chance at intensifying quite quickly from a tropical storm to a hurricane to maybe even a major hurricane, depending on where it is there. This is where a lot of our uncertainty begins, right there just north of the Lesser Antilles. That's about 240 hours out from now, and so all the models go haywire. Some even take it into Florida, others take it into South Carolina, North Carolina, some take it into the New England states, but the majority seem to be kind of trending towards taking it out to sea. So I want to start with our NHC here. We'll just click on the AOI. So they've gone with a 40% chance of development in the next 48 hours and an 80% chance of development in the next 7 days. Most likely that 2-day thing you see there, that's going to climb up to probably 50, then 60, then 70, then 80, and then it will be designated as a tropical depression or tropical storm, depending on however it looks. And that 7-day, I think they will put that up to 90%. Most likely that will go up to 90% sometime. I don't know exactly when that's going to go up the extra 10%, but really there's no way this doesn't develop. The kind of less favorable environment is right in here. This is where it's not as favorable for tropical development. We could still see a tropical depression or tropical storm in the next 48 to 72 hours, but a hurricane seems very unlikely in this area. And then as you go towards the Lesser Antilles back up in here, and then wherever it may track from there, that's where a hurricane seems more likely to form and from, obviously intensify from a tropical storm to a hurricane. We also do have a tropical wave off the coastline of Florida. If you follow me on Twitter, I mentioned this on a post I did on the Euro ensembles for the potential of tropical development on Sunday. I think I mentioned that about 3 or 4 days ago, and we do have this little blob of quite intense convection here. If we take a look at satellite imagery, we go over to the infrared satellite, it's definitely quite a bit of convection there off the coastline of Southwest Florida. And then obviously if we use the Key West radar site, you can see a big blob of heavy moderate rainfall there. So I don't think it will be a tropical depression or anything, but some marginal flash flooding impacts will likely occur with this. And we did have some flooding yesterday across southeastern Florida. I remember a couple days I mentioned they didn't even have a marginal out. I'm not sure if they ever upgraded that excessive rainfall outlook for yesterday, but I know for today we've got a marginal across Florida. Tomorrow we have a marginal as well. So could just be some marginal flooding impacts from this system. Gusty winds will be limited to the heaviest and strongest thunderstorms, but overall it's not going to be like a tropical depression or anything like that. That should stay relatively on the weaker side of things. Just a bit of a surprise tropical wave there. All right, I do want to go to our super ensemble plots after I get a drink of water because my voice decides to not work today. Welcome, Livid Tornadic Rebel as well. Glad to see you in here. All right, let's go to the super ensembles here because this is something that I love to use, especially when we are talking about tropical waves. So let me zoom in a little bit. Oh, you can't see it. It's at the very bottom of your screen. You can see barely the edge of it. I'll pull it out a bit. So you can see it right there. There you go. There is your tropical system designated at 97L at the moment. So it's right in here. And obviously we have a pretty good tight spread on things because this is only like 2 days into the future. And then as we go out further, this is going towards August 12th now. You can see that it really doesn't get all that large. So we really don't have a lot of uncertainty until this gets to the Lesser Antilles. Like look at the difference between August 14th. August 14th, the spread is about this big. It goes just a little bit off your screen. And then August 15th, you could see how much larger that gets. I mean, it doubles in size in terms of uncertainty. So the uncertainty is very, very high as we get closer to the Lesser Antilles. And then when we pull this out a bit further, notice how this is really, really more focused on it turning. It really loves the idea of it just going out to sea. Most of these show it turning up to the north, but there are a few individual ensemble member, just deterministic kind of members here that actually take it further to the west. So this is like a bunch of ensembles and models piled into one chart. And so in this case, these are individual ensemble means. That's the word I was looking for, ensemble means. So just normal individual ensemble kind of outputs there from the ensemble member itself. So this is the deterministic Euro isn't on here because the 12Z hasn't rendered yet. The GFS is on here. It's that green line you see that's rendered, I believe, finished rendering now. The black line is the ensemble mean, so the average. And then the kind of light gray lines, those are your individual ensemble means and little model runs in itself. And then that blue kind of circle in this case, kind of oval here, that is your eclipse of ensemble. So basically where the ensembles depict like generally how large of a spread we're looking at here. So, like I said, not a lot of uncertainty until we get to about the Lesser Antilles, just maybe a little east of the Lesser Antilles. I know it's pretty difficult for you to see it. It's at the bottom, very bottom of your screen there. So this, you could see pretty, a little bit of uncertainty, but not like a bunch of uncertainty on the 14th. And then again, on the 15th, it just, everything goes haywire. It just goes absolutely haywire there in terms of ensemble spreads. So we'll need to keep an eye on it very, very closely. There's definitely still a good chance that this just ends up going straight out to sea. I think that's the most likely case scenario, but we don't want to fully rule out this nearing the U.S. I'm not going to say, a direct landfall to the U.S. or anything like that, but I wouldn't rule out this getting close to the U.S. We're probably going to see at least little impacts in terms of rip currents. But I do want to also show you the main two ensembles that we use, if I can spell this website correctly, gracious. I want to show you the GFS ensembles, which the 12Z is yet to finish rendering in. And I want to show you the Euro ensembles. So we're going to do about, let's see, 200, maybe 280 hours out. No, we're going to do like 250. Yeah, I don't want to go too far out on this. All right, so let's go over to the GFS ensembles here. Hello, Kaylee. Glad to see you in here. Indiana as well. Random guy, welcome to the stream. Super glad to see you in here as well. So this is the GFS ensembles. So we start just off your screen again. That's where Invest 97L is located, right in here, moving up to the northwest. And you can see many of these, pretty much all of these actually, keep it as a tropical storm to tropical depression, all the way up until it gets just barely northeast of the Lesser Antilles. So I think we're pretty much set in stone with this being a tropical depression or tropical storm for like the next 72, maybe even 100 or so hours. And then once it gets towards like northeast of the Lesser Antilles, this is where it should begin to intensify, right in here. That's where it should begin to possibly try to push hurricane status. And then if we do see a major hurricane, that will be closer to like this line in here. And you can see some of these ensembles. I'll zoom in now since we're talking a bit further west. Zoom in here. Some of these have a close call to the Carolinas, and others actually take it on into the Bahamas and Florida. So it's not entirely ruled out that the U.S. gets significant impacts from this system. However, that is the least likely case scenario. The least likely case scenario is a direct U.S. landfall. It can't be fully ruled out because obviously we're still... I don't know, we're like 280 hours out from this getting very close to the U.S. So that's very far out. But most of these ensembles have a clear-cut turn in between, I'll draw it in black lines here, in between here and here. Most ensembles have a pretty clear-cut turn. So the most likely case scenario is it turning and having a close call to Bermuda, the Eastern Bahamas, and maybe, Bermuda needs to watch this closely too, because Bermuda's, right out here. I think it's under one of these ensembles near my cursor. I'm pretty sure it's under one of these ensembles in here. So Bermuda definitely wants to keep an eye on this, because, that's where it's going to be turning to. If it does turn, it's turning up to the northeast. So we'll have to see how quick it takes that turn. Some have a very fast turn. This would be our best case scenario, is it turns well east of Bermuda, way off the coast of any U.S. state. So I don't even know if we'd see many rip currents from that. We'd probably still have some very marginal rip currents across the eastern seaboard. But if we saw that, I think we would have very minimal impacts to the U.S. Worst case scenario, a bit of rip currents. So something in between that. I don't think this is our most likely case scenario, and I don't think this is. Something dead in the middle of that is our most likely case scenario, where it probably has a pretty close call to Bermuda. The Euro ensembles only go out 240 hours, so they're not as far as the GFS ensembles. But we are getting pretty close to that time frame, though. I mean, 240 hours out, here's what your ensembles look like. So that is, that's very, very, very close to where we could start seeing if this is going to be impacting the U.S. according to the Euro ensembles here. And pretty much all of these have it turning right where I was mentioning, in between the GFS's further east one, which this is about as far east as it can go, and the far west one, which is like right in here. That's really right where most of the Euro ensembles take it. So it looks like it's going to turn, but there's plenty of time for that to change. You may have, if you're on social media, there's plenty of hurricanes that were set to turn that ended up going to the eastern U.S. Two off the top of my head, Irma, Florence. Those two were predicted well out in the future to turn. And then once we got closer, it slowly started to, shift further to the west. High pressure not as strong. Systems a little bit further south. And then obviously Irma slammed southeast Florida. Florence slammed the southeast NC coastline. So, there's a few instances where the turn just doesn't happen. But this is a pretty high agreement. You've got good agreement on a strong high pressure located in the middle of the Atlantic. That's your main turning, obviously your main steering mechanism, and it turns it right up and out to sea. So hopefully we do see this go out to sea, but either way, I would be watching along the eastern coastline right out in here. If we don't get a direct impact, which fingers crossed we don't, that seems very, very likely that we will not see a direct impact. We'll still see some rip current, so keep that in mind as you go into the middle of next week. If you have any vacation plans along the coastal areas, Myrtle Beach, Wilmington, Miami, anywhere along the ocean in the southeastern U.S., rip currents are probably going to be an issue, depending on how much this thing turns. So obviously, we'll know more on those rip currents once we get closer. But again, just to reiterate, same with the Euro ensemble, shows the same as the GFS. Very marginal strengthening into a depression or tropical storm over the next 72 to 100 hours. Really doesn't strengthen into potentially a hurricane until north of the Lesser Antilles. This is where it starts to make a run at hurricane status. And then right up here is where it starts to make a run at major hurricane status. So tropical storm to tropical depression from the just off the coastline of Cape Verde all the way until we get towards just east of the U.S. Virgin Islands and the British Islands. And then once we get north of, or rather northeast, kind of northeast of Cuba, it looks like that's where it's going to have the best chance of being a major hurricane. And then we'll see what happens from there on. You can see how much our spread gets. So we have this little spread, bit bigger spread, and then northeast of the Lesser Antilles, you have a huge spread. So very large spread towards the end of this ensemble run, and that's very, very normal as you get far out with time. There's a lot of different scenarios and things ensembles do ensemble stuff. So just keep a very close eye on it. Again, if you're off the coastline of the southeastern U.S., you want to keep an eye on this for the potential of rip currents will probably be the biggest issue, but there is a small opportunity that it doesn't turn. You can see the Euro ensembles actually has a good batch. Now, this is a little bit different from our other guidance. This has a pretty good batch of low pressures and individual ensembles that push it towards the southeastern U.S. Good news is I actually see a lot of these being weak. So some of this actually might be interfering with another wave off the coastline of Florida. So not all of these are very, very strong. I only see a couple here. So that's pretty strong. These are pretty strong ensembles right in here. So not all of these are tropical storm plus strength. So, but that's a lot more ensembles in the GFS. If we go back to the GFS here, we might look at this again, but this is going to be like last time for a little while here, GFS ensembles, that turns it much, much quicker. So there's definitely some room for error in terms of this not turning as fast. Another thing we want to watch is where the system's currently located. So if we go over to satellite imagery, we're going to go over to the Northern Atlantic, and we are going to turn on the GFS. We'll do the GFS. We'll do the GFS. I believe this is the newest one. Here, we're going to take a look. Actually, I haven't used this often at all, so we're going to do the Euro real fast to see if that goes out further. Okay, that's the Euro ensembles. So I don't know exactly where our low pressure is located, but I would assume we're going to go try to find out here. I would assume it's on the northern side of all that convection. Kind of the northwest side here. So let's go to satellite imagery on tropical tidbits. See if we can figure out where this low is. Looks to me like it's up in here. Because you can see it's very hard to tell with the amount of upper level clouds we have. But I'm trying to look at those lower level clouds right in here. And it looks to me like this is where it's located. That's what it looks like to me. But it's very difficult to tell with all this upper level clouds that you're just not able to see where that low pressure is really located, and it's not strong enough to be turning those upper level clouds yet. We'd be in big trouble if it was that strong already. So my guess is our low pressure is like right in here. So more in line with those southern ensembles. And even if it takes a southern track, I mean, you can kind of follow some southern tracks here. Even the most southern tracks still turn it well before it gets anywhere close to the U.S. and even well before it even gets towards the Bahamas. So even if it does go very, very far south than forecasted, it still turns it. You know, it still takes a turn up to the north. And even if we go with like the far, far southern ensembles, even those start to turn it just still away, well away from the U.S. So let's look at our GFS ensembles here. That's your Euro ensembles from earlier. Let's look at your GFS ensembles here. These are your ensembles from yesterday's 12Z runs. So they're ensembles from yesterday. And should have pointed that out really quick. My apologies. Go back to the Euro ensembles. I apologize. Look how much fewer ensembles there are from yesterday's run compared to today. We just looked at today's run a moment ago for the 12Z Euro ensembles, and there was like, I'd say 6 or so, right around 6 ensembles that took it towards the Southeast US. Yesterday, there's only like 2, maybe 3 ensembles here that aim it towards the Southeast US. So the Euro getting a little bit more aggressive, at least today compared to yesterday. Now we can go take a look at the GFS 12Z from yesterday ensemble runs here. Man, that's a big mess. That's a lot of ensembles. Now, a lot of these little blue streaks you see in here, these are different low pressures from moving off the coastline of the U.S. and then going into the Atlantic. So we got to try to kind of figure out which ones are from 97L and which ones aren't. So these look to be from 97L, this large main spread right in here. Like I said, low pressure is located generally. I'll go down a little bit. Let's go down a bit. I'll go down here, redraw that. Generally, low pressure is right in here. Those ensemble spreads kind of like right in here. That's where your main ensemble spreads are. So a lot of our main ensemble spreads, you could see many of them show it turning up to the north. But the thing is, there's plenty of time for this to change. Even though there's so many ensembles that turn it to the northeast, there's plenty of time for it to change. If we get a high pressure, there's a high pressure we're watching up in the Great Lakes going towards the middle and end of this week. If that's a bit faster, then it can go out to the northern Atlantic, and basically it would put a high pressure right in here, making it impossible for the system to turn. Our high pressure out here, well east of Bermuda. This is considered the Bermuda High, even though it's way away from Bermuda at this point. If it's a little bit weaker, then this system could just sneak right under it and go just like that. Another thing is we are watching a low pressure towards the end of this week that's supposed to move off the coastline of the U.S. If that low pressure is any more to the north, then it's not going to hit it. So showing you a model run now, we're going to go to our deterministic runs, which definitely, you know, it's not a good idea to really look at them more than about 200 hours out, 180 hours out, right around there. That's when they start getting inaccurate. And then beyond 240 hours out, it's just fantasy land. So thankfully, we're close enough to where This system hits just north of the Lesser Antilles, about 135 hours out, 138 hours out. So that's not too far out. This is should be a pretty accurate depiction of it. So becomes a tropical depression just to the northwest of Cape Verde. Sometime late tomorrow, maybe a tropical storm Wednesday or Thursday, and then begins to push hurricane intensity towards the weekend. Saturday, you can see it goes from a weak tropical storm to a hurricane, maybe even a major hurricane. It's Saturday into Sunday morning, and then it turns it very rapidly. So you can see your low pressure right here. This is your low pressure that we're going to be watching moving through the U.S. I'll zoom in a little bit for you. So there's your low pressure. It's up here in it. That's dead wrong. Your low pressure is actually right in here. I don't know why the low is so far east. So that's your low pressure. And your cold front goes occluded front and then cold front all the way down like this. And so that's your cold front that really smacks this away from hitting the northeastern U.S. Because some runs had this hitting like Maine or Nova Scotia or New Brunswick. And you can see that low pressure does the final blow and pushes this out to sea, and it never hits land. I mean, it just literally, this is the best case scenario here. Stays north of the Lesser Antilles, east of Bermuda. Low pressure hits it, goes well east of the New England states, and then just stays in the northern Atlantic where it eventually just dissipates just southeast of Greenland. So that would be really awesome if that happens. Is it possible for it to never turn and keep going west? Yep, it is possible, but that's the least likely case scenario. So for that to happen, you can see, actually, our high pressure has trended way quicker. This is a high pressure right here. So this is blocking it, but you have a very, very strong high pressure here, and another, looks like probably another high out there in the south central U.S. that you can't see. So we would have to have this high pressure. Apparently, according to the new runs, this high pressure would have to slow down, and then that would block it. And this is your big boy here. That's what's really, really turning it. You can see very strong high pressure. Winds are moving just like this. So this really, really turns it, really strongly pulls it out to sea. And that is your main steering current, that main Bermuda high. Another thing that the GFS has, I looked at this before I started the live stream. It has a random low pressure forming over Bermuda. So what that does, I don't know, I was drawing a high pressure logo for some reason. And so it has a low pressure here. So if you didn't know, low pressures rotate like this, high pressures rotate like this. So that has given it a clear-cut, very, very clear track. I don't know why the GFS develops a low like that, but it would keep it well away from Bermuda, turning it this way. This high pressure would push it this way. So it would be a very, very narrow track for this hurricane to track. And that just, I don't see that happening where we get a random low pressure to form like over Bermuda. The GFS does this every time. If we go to the last run, let's actually do it manually. Let's go to the 06Z. The 06Z did not have that, and wow, okay, didn't see that. Oh, man, yeah, it has a major hurricane on top of Bermuda right there. So that's probably the best chance for landfall out of this system is Bermuda. Or somewhere, like, Bermuda's probably under the greatest risk for this thing to make landfall anywhere in the globe. I mean, I think it's going to stay well north of the Lesser Antilles. That looks very likely. And this is where it's uncertain. Some models take it more west like this. Some even take it very far west. But the majority turn it up to the northeast around our high pressure. So a lot of uncertainty. There's nothing set in stone. The only thing we know for certain is this thing's going to be moving west, and it's going to be moving towards the U.S. Whether it turns or not, we'll just have to wait and see. But if it does, worst case scenario, if it does hit the U.S., it would be around August 21st. August 20th, 21st. That would be your absolute worst case scenario. Which, again, is the least likely case scenario. I know we have a lot of people who are just now tuning in again. Just to reiterate, most likely case scenario slowly becomes a tropical depression, tropical storm, then becomes a hurricane northeast of Lesser Antilles, makes a run for a major hurricane northeast of Cuba, takes a turn and goes out to sea. That's the most likely case scenario at this point. All it takes is a little tiny shift south with our low pressure. High pressure is a bit more to the northeast, and this thing's going to go right towards South Carolina, maybe North Carolina. That tiniest little change, which, I mean, it does not take much for that change to happen. For instance, here's the Euro, AI Euro here. I don't know why the heck it is so slow with development north of the Lesser Antilles, but it is. Doesn't have it becoming a tropical storm until northeast of, I believe that's Haiti. I believe Haiti and the Dominican Republic. And let's see what it does. So in this case, oh my goodness. Yeah, so that's also a possible scenario. Gracious day. Well, that hits a lot of land, so that makes landfall on the Outer Banks of North Carolina. Yikes. And then it goes right up into New Brunswick, Nova Scotia. So, in this case, this is a little bit unique and a very big outlier. The low pressure doesn't strengthen. So your wave is actually so weak that it just sneaks under the high pressure here. And it's also, it's not like really far south, but it looks a little bit further south to the point where it clips the Bahamas here. And you can see, I mean, your high pressure is still in like the same general location as the GFS and the Euro says. But because it's weaker north of the Lesser Antilles, that high pressure doesn't have a really big hold on it. But then if your hurricane's stronger, sometimes the strength of your hurricane can fight against the strength of that high pressure. So that's something we'll have to watch. If the wave's very weak, it can sneak under that high, but possibly maybe if we have a major hurricane, it can try to use its own steering current, obviously being a low pressure, to try to steer away from the high pressure. So in this case, it's weak enough to sneak under that high. I don't think we have any other models that really show that kind of vigorous of a scenario to where it's perfectly timed to sneak under the high. Here is the, what is this, the Canadian? Yeah, this is the Canadian model run. And you can see it becomes a tropical storm. It becomes a tropical storm, a little bit weaker north of Lesser Antilles. The high pressure gets a hold of it, slowly starts to turn it, goes in between North Carolina and Bermuda. And that's where our run ends. So multiple different scenarios. We could try the Icon, but I don't think the Icon goes out very far. Only 180 hours out. And this thing turns it early. Man, that would be a fantastic scenario if that were to happen. So your low just stays very far north the entire time, and thus it's always in the steering current of the high pressure, and it just gets nowhere near the US and stays even well east of Bermuda. That would be awesome. So we'll take a look here again. This is your GFS ensembles. That's all the different scenarios according to the GFS ensemble from yesterday. The newest ones haven't yet rendered in. They are rendering in right now. And this thing could literally go anywhere from well east of Bermuda to South Carolina to even, according to two of these, southern Florida. So if you're anywhere along the southeastern U.S., you just want to watch this wave. Don't worry about it. Don't panic. Make sure you do have the hurricane, your hurricane preparedness plan. Make sure that is finished. Make sure you can put that into action very quickly if this does head towards the U.S. But if not this wave, there's going to be another wave. There's going to be another chance for a hurricane to hit the southeast U.S. and the southern U.S. along the Gulf Coast. So make sure that hurricane preparedness plan is finished. We're not yet in the dead peak of hurricane season, but we're getting there. We're in early August. So we're definitely getting towards the point where we're going to start seeing a lot more hurricanes and tropical storms. The next name on the list, for those who don't know, is it Aaron? I know it's an E. I believe it's Aaron. I think that's the E name. Next E. name on our list. We unless it's what is it called? I'm trying to think. Unless it is retired, unless it's retired, then we keep switching between different name storms every year. Like Adalia, we know Adalia from 2023 that hit Florida. Adalia was used previously, and Helene too was used previously. Both of those now retired, so um, we keep circulating them through the name. I think Aaron is next, pretty sure. When we have a clearer picture on which way it goes, probably north of the Lesser Antilles, right here. Once our low pressure is right here, or wherever it is at that point, that's when we're going to get a lot more information, which to give you a time on that, Thursday, Friday. Thursday, Friday. So a good solid 4 to 5 days is when we'll know a lot more information on if it's going to turn. 4 to 5 days, it will be located somewhere in here, most likely. And then we'll be able to figure out how strong our high pressure is at that time, where our high pressure in Canada is at that time, and if there's a low pressure. Thursday, Friday, that low pressure would be located probably somewhere in Montana or so, somewhere across the north central U.S. There's three main steering currents for this one. It looks like the biggest one, obviously Bermuda high pressure. The second one is our high pressure going to be in Canada, and then the third one is another low pressure that will be located in probably Montana, and all that stuff's going to be moving east. So to put it all into motion here, you see your big Bermuda high. You can't miss it, dead center of your screen. Then your low pressure comes through on this model run. It's a bit early. It comes in on August 17th into the 18th. There's your low pressure there. And then your previous high pressure right there. So you got your big Bermuda high, and then your second high pressure that we're watching to see where that goes. And in this case, it goes up towards New Brunswick, and then your low pressure. Those are your three main steering currents. And then obviously what the low pressure does down here, the main 97L. Like I said, if it's weaker and a little bit further south, it might be able to sneak by that Bermuda high. If it's very strong, it might be able to pull away from that Bermuda high just because of how strong it is. And if it's probably I'd say if it's a tropical storm, that high pressure is probably going to be able to grab it. It would have to be like a low-end tropical depression to be able to sneak under it. And it would have to be further south. So this is, I believe, the Icon. Yeah, this is the Icon model run. It has it weak. It has it weak enough to sneak under that high pressure. The problem is your low pressure is up here as opposed to down here. So if your low pressure is, say, give or take 50 miles more northeast, like what the Icon model has, that high pressure, no matter its strength, it's still going to be able to grab it. Because your low pressure is weak and your high pressure is right. Well, this whole thing's your high pressure. It's screwed up because you got a low pressure here. But your high pressure is in here. Here, let me go a few frames out. You can see there's your high pressure right in here. So it just pulls it. Very, very easily pulls it. Oh, they upped the development probs? Let's see. Let me go. Come on, load. I haven't gotten it yet. Man, you got it early. You must have got it really early. But apparently they upped the probabilities 10% for both. Apparently it's up to a 50-90 now as opposed to the 9 o'clock update, which was 40-80. I'm not seeing that yet. But Livid's the person who said it, so I'm pretty sure he's correct. I forgot the update was even at 2 p.m. I forgot that. So, yep, there you go. There you go. 50-90. So it's a 50-90. Tropical depression or tropical storm is likely to form towards the middle or latter portion of this week while moving west-northwestward. And then it will probably form into a hurricane by the time it gets towards the end of this AOI. They definitely have a clear-cut potential turn here. You can see it west, west, northwest. But really, that's when we're going to know where it's going to go. Once our low pressure is somewhere in here, which is going to be about a good solid 5 days, that's when we'll know where it's going to turn. Or if it's going to turn. A lot of different scenarios. So we'll continue to watch our model run and model data that comes through. And obviously we'll need to watch where the low pressure is actively located, which right now, like I said, believe it's located just southeast, barely southeast of Cape Verde, somewhere in here is where I'm thinking it's located right now. So yeah, they did push that AOI further up to the northwest, obviously, because, well, time keeps going, so 7 days, potentially 7 days from right now, the furthest west it could be, 7 days from this location, where it is currently, is that far to the northwest, so that's like the furthest it can go in 7 days. Most likely in 7 days, let's see, that's what, the 17th? Let's see the timing. I'm trying to figure out which model one has it the furthest west on the 17th. So, like, the GFS has it being, like, right in here on the 17th, and that's 7 days. There is the chance for another tropical wave behind it, but I'm not going to dive into that until either this system is, like, southeast of Bermuda, or in like 7-ish days, or if the NHC highlights it. So if there's another wave behind it, either we will start talking about it once the NHC highlights it, or start talking about it once this system's up towards Bermuda. And we'll need more time. Yeah, and the GFS, by the way, the operational GFS, that 12Z run has it being, like I said, somewhere up here in 7 days, whereas many of the other models, and especially the GFS ensembles, really pinpoints it to be further down here. So we'll just have to wait and see. That's hurricane season. It's just a very, very long waiting game. I'm a little surprised this little guy didn't form. This is 96L, I believe. Invest 96L. Just never really got going. I mean, it got close like 3-4 days ago, and then ever since then, it's just completely fallen off. And then our low pressure off the coastline of Carolinas about 5 days ago, you can see where it is now. Look at that. Very, very exposed low pressure, but it's turned into a cold core. It's turned into a cold core, so it's kind of extra tropical at this point. Very, very exposed low pressure right there. So we got our tropical rainstorm out here off the coastline of Southwest Florida. Just going to deliver some marginal flooding impacts. Any gusty winds will be limited to the strongest of thunderstorms as it drifts to the north. We got a previous AOI back up in here. That's an extra tropical low now at this point. Remnants of 96L. And then our big boy 97L right there. And then there's going to be more waves after 97L too that are currently in like north central Africa. Those will eventually get into the main development region. Whether or not they develop, we'll figure out in 7 to 14 days. 12Z started off more south. Well, then it's probably going to be a bit more accurate. I don't have any sites. Actually, I do have a site that renders in very fast. I didn't even know this site renders the 12Z Euro quickly. You know, College Due page, typically that takes literally like 4 hours after it finishes rendering. College Due page will get it. Only problem is, oh, nope, never mind. Yeah, so the 12Z Euro starts at, let's see, yeah, it's 19Z right now? Nope, it's almost 18Z. Forgot time conversion for a second. So the Euro starts at like right, let's see, right there is where the 12Z Euro starts at. And then it drifts north, which is exactly what we're expecting. Slowly strengthens tropical depression, probably Tuesday. Tropical storm Wednesday. Definitely a tropical storm by Thursday on the Euro model. And then that's as far out as it goes right now, 114 frames. I would still be keeping an eye on it from Southeast Florida. It doesn't hurt to keep an eye on it. But Florida is like the absolute lowest scenario, right? Like there really couldn't be a lower scenario for this storm. Most likely case scenario is it goes north and gets very close to Bermuda, goes out to sea, never impacts land. Another case scenario is where it hits Bermuda, then goes out to sea. The most likely case scenario, which is still a very low chance, is a landfall barely scraping the coastal areas of South Carolina and North Carolina. And if it just straight up doesn't turn, which is, like I said, like the lowest of low scenarios, then that would put Florida at risk. If it just straight up doesn't turn, like if it just goes straight, just like this, that would put it right into probably eastern, southeastern Florida. But the chance of that is very low. So I wouldn't say Florida's at risk. No, I wouldn't say it's at risk, but I would be watching still. It doesn't hurt to keep an eye on it. It doesn't hurt just to watch it, just in case. But nobody needs to be worrying or panicking about this system. Like I said, if you are along the southeastern, eastern U.S., obviously, well, if you're anywhere that normally sees hurricanes every single year, just make sure your hurricane preparedness plan is ready, and then you'll be perfectly fine. And then once we're, 2-3 days out from a landfall, then you put that into action. But right now, there's definitely no signs that this is going to hit. No credible signs that this is going to hit the U.S. Let me go ahead and show you guys this again. So this is all the different scenarios on the GFS ensembles. Much easier to show you it than kind of explain it. I'm not the best at explaining things without a map. So this is your most likely case scenario, is right in here. That's your most likely case scenario, is where it just drifts up and then out to sea. Close call, if not a landfall on Bermuda. That is definitely a very real possibility. Least likely case scenarios is too far east, and it just goes like this, and then we never talk about it again. It stays a fish storm, doesn't impact anybody. And then there's also the least likely case scenario of it, you can see, going right into eastern, southeastern Florida. This doesn't show any, but there's also the possibility that it turns late and then skims North Carolina. So those are all your scenarios. You got the least likely case scenario. One is turning very soon. And then another least likely case scenario into Florida. Another least likely case scenario into North Carolina. And then your most likely case scenario near Bermuda and then out to sea. So really like 4 main scenarios here. Early turn, no one gets hit. Normal turn, it gets close to Bermuda, then goes out to sea. Late turn, hits North Carolina. No turn, Florida. all the way up to South Carolina could be at risk. And you could see in this case, there's only like 3-4 ensembles that shows no turn. So that's all your different model runs from your GFS ensembles. And this could change a lot. You know, we could see this all shift to the south and go towards, you know, all these main ensembles start shifting towards closer to the US. Or we could see these spare little ones. You see these like 4 or 5 of these that go towards Florida, South Carolina. We could see those disappear and everything congeal on this going out to sea. There's plenty of time for all of this to change. The main thing that we know, this is like what we're expecting at this point, slowly moves off to the north-northwest, starts to move dead west, becomes a tropical storm, becomes a hurricane, and that's where it stops. You know, that's where the certainty starts becoming very, very high. After that, it's high uncertainty. And you could see, like I said, some of these go very sharp to the northeast, some don't turn it, some take it normally turning to the northeast. But there's a bunch of different scenarios. So if anyone's telling you like a one and done case scenario, then you know you want to be pretty careful, because some people are saying that it's going to go out to sea. We don't know that. We don't know what's going to happen in 8 days into the future. I can't say it's going to go out to sea yet. I think it's likely going to go out to sea. I think that's the most likely case scenario, but I'm not 100% confident on that. Because it's far out. Nobody knows if it's going to go out to sea. But if you guys have any more questions, go ahead and put them in the chat before we wrap up here. If you haven't already, make sure you hit that like button. Share the channel with your family, friends, social media. If you're new to the channel, consider hitting that subscribe button with the notification bell set to all. We'll be covering tropical storms and hurricanes live all this season, especially any that are heading towards or make landfall in the U.S. And one's bound to hit eventually. We're bound to have at least one hurricane landfall in the U.S. No, Brady, I'm sorry. I don't have my time machine this time. I don't have my time machine. What's the marginal in my area? We need rain bad. It's just for isolated flooding. Let's see. Very isolated flooding. It looks like much of the rain's going to stay off to your northwest. If you do get any rain, it will likely be tomorrow morning. Tomorrow morning and tomorrow evening are the best chances for rain. And if we're talking totals, I don't really think you'll get more than, at most, a quarter inch of rain. The blob off of Florida, that is something tropical. That is definitely something tropical. Ignore the ensembles for it there. The one ensemble from 97L somehow goes into Louisiana, Texas. Man, now that's a stupid one right there. That's one little dumb one that doesn't know what steering currents are. But this guy right here, this is just a tropical rainstorm. It's going to bring some marginal flooding impacts to coastal Florida, specifically on the west side today into tomorrow. Southeast Florida had some flooding yesterday out of this system. Any gusty winds will be limited to the strongest of thunderstorms. It's not going to become a tropical depression, and it is not going to be a named storm. It is just a blob of pretty well-organized convection moving through the eastern Gulf. But it is indeed tropical. I don't know if it has its own low yet. I doubt it has its own low. But it's tropical. We'll have to see what it looks like tomorrow morning. It very well may have its own low pressure right now. Well, I'll keep an eye on that tomorrow, but I don't expect much new information tomorrow, so I won't see y'all tomorrow, which that's Monday. School is starting back too, so anyone who's in school, I hope you have fun. Back here in Virginia, schools are all starting tomorrow. Most are starting tomorrow here in South Central Virginia. I ain't going. So we have that to look forward to. Everybody gets to go to school again. My summer is indefinite. But yeah, tomorrow, no content. Next content will be either a video or a live stream on Tuesday. And depending on what happens towards the latter half of the week, we may initiate daily live streams if need be. If not, we'll continue with the switch between live streams and videos. I do apologize for not streaming yesterday. I'm sorry for that. I mentioned a live stream would be possible either Friday or yesterday. I didn't do either. I apologize for no live stream yesterday. NASCAR race went all the way until like 6:30, so I was busy all the way till like 7:30. And then it was just too late and I didn't feel like live stream. I was lazy. So I apologize. I let my laziness get the best of me. So I thank you guys for tuning in. We will be live on the gaming channel for a race live stream in 2 weeks. Daytona, there is a race at Daytona. Green flag's about probably 7:50. Sometime around August 20 something. Daytona. So we'll be live with that. Me and Lucky on the gaming channel. If you know it, then prepare for a live stream there next Sunday. If you don't, it's TRG Gaming. Haven't done a stream on that in a long time, very long time. But that's it for me. I greatly appreciate all you guys tuning in. Remember, the main takeaway of this live stream is to just simply make sure your hurricane preparedness plan is finished, it's done, and whenever need be, you can put that into action within preferably minutes. Also, make sure you are staying tuned to your local National Weather Service and meteorologists for the best information. And frequently check the National Hurricane Center as they update about every 6 hours for this AOY. I will catch you guys sometime on Tuesday in a live stream or a video, just depending on which one I deem fit. And thank you, mods from Mod Chat and everyone for being here. I hope you have a great rest of your Sunday. And for anyone who has school tomorrow, good luck at school. And I'll catch you guys on Tuesday. Stay safe, watch severe weather, and watch the tropics. Have a great rest of your day. Goodbye. Stay safe, watch for weather, and watch the tropics. Thank you much for on chat. Have a great rest.